All right. Well, it is 7:05 p.m., so we're going to get started as I promised that we would do. I want to start off by thanking each of you for joining our virtual meeting this evening. Of course, many of you, probably all of you know me, Emmanuel Briggs, Director of Community Affairs in our Office of Marketing and Communications. I want to thank you again for joining this meeting. Also, thank Commissioner Baer for working so well with us and so closely with us throughout this project to ensure that we're giving you timely and accurate information throughout the project. I'm going to give Commissioner Bear a moment to give a greeting as well once I shut up. Um, I'm going to let you know first off that the meeting is being recorded. So for those of the community that aren't able to make it to the meeting tonight, the meeting is being recorded, and we will ensure that the recording is up on our project webpage by tomorrow. Um, the slide deck that we're going to be presenting to you will be made available tonight. So as we typically do for our monthly ANC presentations, we're going to be emailing that to the community immediately upon completion of our presentation tonight. I do want to ask that you please hold your questions to the end. We've got lots of great information updates to share with you, which is hence why we're having this meeting tonight. And so we want to make sure we get to every question that we can. We've got an hour and a half, so we've got hopefully plenty of time to get through everything. You can hold your questions or place them in the chat, and we will get to them as soon as we get through all the slides. With that said, I'm going to hand things over to Commissioner Baer to give a welcome or any comments that he has before we get started with the actual presentation. Commissioner Baer.
Emmanuel, thank you very much. I just want to welcome everyone to the first of several community Zoom meetings that DC Water has agreed to hold as they move forward with the Soapstone main sewer line and lateral lines relining project. I will put my email address in the chat so that if people have any comments about the meeting tonight or about the issue, you can email me at that. And I am under the assumption that Emmanuel will look at the entirety of the project, focusing on that part of it that would be important to the people in the Van Ness North and the Van Ness East buildings. So with that, again.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Commissioner. All right. So, of course, this is our title slide. So, Jarrell, can you proceed to the next slide? All right. So, the agenda for this evening, we're going to just quickly touch on the project background, but not hang on it too long. Project benefits, but not hang on that too long. Construction update, some of the meat of the presentation for tonight. We're going to discuss the CIPP, the shot maps that we have. We're going to talk about air quality and our styrene response. We're going to give you an update on our stakeholder engagement, of course. And then at the end of this, we will have, last but not least, our Q&A session. All right, Jarrell, next slide, please.
All right, thank you, Emmanuel. Good evening, everyone. Jarrell Johnson. I'm sure you're pretty familiar with me now. What we're looking at now, just a view of the project site, going over some of the site locations. So as we move further along and I speak, related to the schedule on each site, you are familiar with those locations. The project background. Basically, we are in the park replacing 6,200 linear feet of sewer pipe, installing CIPP line in there. We are also repairing impaired stormwater outfalls, like outfall F17. I'm sure some of you may have noticed the new setup there at the outfall. And then also doing some stream restoration work and asset protection to protect the manholes and other piping that runs through the park. So this project will mitigate the risk of major sewage leaks into the park, ensure long-term safe and recreational use, protect the trail, and also we are replacing some invasive species with native species. The stream work will help stabilize the creek channel and also reduce some of the extreme erosion that you've been seeing. Also reducing unwanted odors from sewers and manholes. and making those much needed stream improvements. As of now, our permitted construction hours are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and that's Monday through Saturday. And then I'll walk through our current status of our 5-week look ahead of activities that'll be coming up. So this week, the week of August 14th, the contractor has been out in the field replacing some of the access mats throughout the site, and those mats are used to get our equipment in place for various activities and material deliveries. They have been working at Site 5 installing manhole protection. Next week, we'll be focused on the contractor mobilizing the Site 4 and Site 5, where they'll begin continue stream restoration activities there. And then we'll be doing a review of the CCTV footage, and that CCTV footage is the portion of the line that we'll go through for shots 6 through 10. So there's a review process in place. The following week, the week of August 28th, we'll continue the stream restoration work at sites 4 and 5. And we should be wrapping up the CCTV footage review. The following week, September 4th, they'll continue the CCTV for shots 6 through 10. And then we'll continue the installation of manhole protection at Site 5. Then finally, the following week, the week of September 11th, is when we anticipate to begin the CIPP operation. And we anticipate beginning that operation from shot 6. And that week will also still be at sites 4 and 5, completing any remaining stream work. Here's a look at the shots. As I mentioned, we'll be doing shots 6 through 10. This is a look at shot 6. If you're looking at the map, we identify where the boiler truck will be located, and then also the 348 feet of line to be rehabbed. Similar, shot 7 identifies the boiler truck and also the segment of pipe that'll be relined. Shot 8, similar to the last, just identifying the section that'll be lined. Shots 9, you're familiar. And then finally, shot 10, which will be the last in this phase of CIPP work. And in order to complete that work, as you may be familiar with, we required to set up sewer bypass number 2. That has been in place for a few weeks now. We're continuing to monitor for any deficiencies. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Eric, who'll speak to the styrene detection from the air quality.
Thanks, Jill. I appreciate it. I don't believe I've met many of you. My name is Eric Hainline. I'm an engineer. I'm calling in today from the beautiful Hoosier state of Indiana. So thanks for having me. If I understand the premise of the meeting, there were some questions about styrene concentrations as they related to this project. So let's set the stage first and understand what those concentrations were. During the first 5 installations on this project, the highest concentration of styrene was 4 parts per billion. Just so we're all at the same level of understanding as we go into this, 4 parts per billion is not 0. It's worth a conversation, but it's much, much below any numbers that I would consider safety or a public health concern. To put it into some context, OSHA has standards for worker safety that are set at 100 parts per billion or 100 parts per million for styrene. So that's roughly 100,000 times more concentrated than we measured on this job site. And additionally, the US EPA set standards for public, so not the workers, but the general public surrounding those job sites. If that number is 20 parts per million, that would be roughly 20,000 times stronger than what we read on this job site. So again, not an environmental concern or a safety or a public health concern, but more just a curiosity question of how in the world were we reading anything if we were using a non-styrinated resin. So diving in from there, the resin that we are using by contract is what's described as a non-styrinated resin. There are a few different resins that can be used for cured in place piping. By far the most common of those do contain a chemical called styrene. For their own reasons, DC Water chose to specify this project without that. And the resin we are using has 0.0% of it in it. It's just not an ingredient that goes into that mix. So if we're not using it, not bringing it to the job site, but the air quality monitoring produced some results where there were trace levels in there, it begs the question, how in the world did it get in there? My honest answer is I don't know, but we can speculate as some reasonable reasons why it could have gotten in there. The most likely is the equipment that we use. So we use big, heavy pieces of equipment. We use pumps. We use ropes. We use piping and flexible hoses as a part of our cured in place process. It's conceivable that some of those parts and pieces of the equipment had some very trace levels of styrene on them from prior job sites. And you're seeing just a very small trace level that showed up in the air quality monitoring. That is a possibility. The other possibility is just the atmosphere and the environment around that cured in place process. So Jarrell mentioned a second ago about pumps. There were some pictures of pumps. Those pumps are gas-driven pumps. Gasoline does contain trace levels of styrene in it. It's a possibility there. It could be something as simple as a worker smoking a cigarette over to the side that could have been picked up for a trace level of styrene. There's a number of possibilities, but again, the most likely scenario is probably one of those pieces of equipment and parts of equipment. So we took that seriously, and I'd like to share just briefly some of the corrective actions that we've taken since those first rounds of air quality monitoring took place. If the most likely scenario was the equipment and parts and pieces, we've replaced it. We're using new pumps in the job site when we come back out there. The refrigerated trucks that we use to transport the liners are new and different from the first round, as is the equipment that processes the liners. The ropes that I mentioned, the lay flat hoses and piping that I mentioned are all brand new. So in theory, fingers crossed, if we eliminate that possibility from it, I think we're moving in a very positive direction. I wish I had honest and concrete answers, but what I have is some reasonable estimations for what could have caused that and what we're doing to resolve that matter. Jarrell, back to you.
Thanks, Eric. Speaking on stakeholder engagement, we will continue to meet with the community, continue providing regular updates to the councilman's office and our Ward 3 MOKers. If you are around this Saturday, we will have a table set up at UDC Farmers Market. Encouraging everyone to stop by, sign up for our digital distribution list, ask any additional questions you may have between now and then. So that'll be this Saturday on the 19th, and we'll be at the UDC Farmers Market. Okay, and then we'll also maintain our close working relationship with the impacted businesses, residents. We've been in touch with the some of the apartment buildings there in that area. Also, we will be sending out a notification to beginning that CIPP work before beginning to work at Shot 6, just to make sure everyone's aware. And I do want to mention that, schedules are subject to change based on, weather and other conditions outside of our control. And then we'll also continue to attend the monthly ANC meetings. And we will do door-to-door distributions when we get down to approaching the work on Audubon Terrace. And then we will continue coordinating with the property managers. With that being said, the best way to contact the project team for any questions, concerns will be to email soapstone.info@dcwater.com. That's soapstone.info@dcwater.com. And also, you could just send us in a subject line saying "add me," and we will add you to our distribution list to receive those project updates. There's also a 24/7 project hotline. For any reason that you may need to dial that, it's 202-301-8058. That's 202-301-8058. And with that, we will open up for questions.
So I think there's some in the chat. So Raisha, if you could start off by reading what's in the chat.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me? Sorry, I had a problem unmuting.
No, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, the first question says, it's from T, says, I would like to know what DC Water is going to do with respect to project contractors to encourage them to not leave their belongings in the body of the truck. We have had at least 5 car break-ins for contractor trucks, including DC Water trucks, because of items being left in the body. This makes our neighborhood an attractant to thieves, and this makes our neighborhood less safe. Another break-in happened this afternoon, and the driver almost hit a pedestrian as he sped away.
Peter, who do you want to direct to address that question?
Amanda, can you repeat that question?
Oh, repeat it again, Raisha.
Okay. It says, I would like to know what DC Water is going to do with respect to project contractors to encourage them to not leave their belongings in the body of the truck. We have had at least 5 car break-ins of contractor trucks, including DC Water trucks, because of items being left in the body. This makes our neighborhood an attractant to thieves and makes our neighborhood less safe. Another break-in happened this afternoon, and the driver almost hit a pedestrian as he sped away.
Okay, we will let the inspector on the job knows. And is Kristen on the call? Kristen with IPR? Okay, we will let the contractor and their subcontractor know. I'm writing the notes down.
Okay,
We'll make sure.
There's another question related to that from Ben L. Who says, piggybacking on the above question about attracting to thieves, I would like to ask about the risk that a new beautiful re-landscape Soapstone Valley might make an attractant to nuisance makers. For example, if it were to become a thing for some people to treat the Soapstone Valley as a venue for loud partying, picnicking, loud obnoxious music, would Soapstone Valley Park National Park Service designation mean that residents bordering the Soapstone Valley would be able to summon law enforcement to shut that down?
Hey, Raisha, I think your microphone's a little bit hard to hear. Yeah.
Can you hear me better now? I had headphones on thinking it would be better, but.
Nope, it's clear now. Yep.
Okay.
If you could repeat that one.
Could you repeat it?
Yep. Okay, it says, I would like to, hang on, let me make sure it doesn't connect again. It says, piggybacking on the above question about attracting to thieves, I would like to ask about the risk that a new beautiful re-landscaped Soapstone Valley might become an attractant to nuisance makers. For example, if it were to become a thing for some people to treat the Soapstone Valley as a venue for loud partying, picnicking, and loud obnoxious music, would the Soapstone Valley National Park Service designation mean that residents bordering the Soapstone Valley would be able to summon law enforcement to shut that down?
It, the short answer would be we will forward this question to National Park Service. They are in charge of the park. So we got a permit from National Park Service. So we will table this question to National Park Service, and then we whatever response they give to us, we will pass it to our outreach folks and get back with the person that asked the question.
Okay.
Raish, before you go to the next one in the chat, I know that Marjorie's had her hand up, so we want to acknowledge her question, and then we'll go back to the chat. So Marjorie, did you want to ask your question, Marjorie?
Sure. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I wanted to follow up on the styrene testing and monitoring issue. I appreciate that. Is it Eric? Can you tell me who? I know Eric Leinhardt, but this seems to be a different Eric. With whom does Eric work?
Eric
Hey,
for IPR.
Yep. Marjorie, my name is Eric Hainline. I'm a director of engineering for IPR, the contractor. Good to meet you.
Oh, okay. So you have AECOM and you have they have hired, or you have hired University of Texas at Arlington to report in. Why are we not seeing? I would like to see documentation for why the styrene is present in a larger concentration than it is for cumene, where it's supposed to be a cumene liner. Number one, you said the only possibility you thought, and you used a lot of non-specific language, I think, and I know it's a difficult situation, but you said a contamination from equipment, and you know you're going to replace the equipment. There are also two other possibilities. Another possibility is that the liner does contain some styrene, even though the safety data sheets, basically the label for the liners, says differently. I've been working with Professor Welton for years now, and there's been many case studies, and I have seen them, where the liner that is delivered is different from what has been promised or even what the safety data sheet says. So we requested that you test the liner, but DC Water and IPR did not want to do that. The third choice is that there might be contamination in the lab. That is a possibility. And all of that can be documented, and we would like to see, and we deserve to see documentation, not language like we think. And also you're reporting in, and while I appreciate that, why are we not hearing from AECOM or from the very people who are monitoring the testing? So I'm really confused.
I'll dive in first. Marjorie, your questions about AECOM and monitoring and any suggestion of lab contamination would have to be diverted to DC Water, who hired those companies to be out here. My role is just that of the contractor side of it. So I think the one question that you offered that I might be able to speak of is the supposition that the liner itself could in fact contain styrene. You're correct. We live in an imperfect world. I suppose anything is possible. From a contractor standpoint, let me allow you to peek behind the curtain for just a second. So at any of our liner production facilities where we're putting these liners together and saturating them with the resin, all of the resin that we receive comes with a bill of lading. We buy special materials from special providers for special projects. It would be impossible for us to take the wrong resin and put it in a tube and just send it to this job site, because there's a chain of command. There's paperwork and trails that come with all the products we put in there. I'd also go so far as to say if we were using the wrong resin, like a resin that had styrene in it, like most of the rest of the industry uses, we wouldn't be talking about concentrations like 4 parts per billion. we would be talking about much, much higher concentrations. It would be blatantly obvious that we were using the wrong resin. I truly believe we have a situation here where there's some trace readings that could have come from a number of different sources. And again, I'm sorry we don't have concrete evidence for where exactly that's coming from today.
Thank you. I
Sure.
do believe that we, the community, DOEE, deserves to have documentation. It's just wrong. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gone out of your way to say you were going to have a non-styrene liner, which was one of the community's concerns in the first place. The testing comes back, and it's only come back for 3 shots. Is that correct? The first 3
No,
shots?
that's not correct. It came with 5.
5 shots. Okay.
We
Excuse
should
me.
put on our
Then
website.
why is it showing up? And so you don't know. We need documentation. Something could have happened in the lab. It has been proven that sometimes liners come in and they're not labeled correctly. It is possible. And so especially when you get towards the apartment buildings on Connecticut Avenue and the Montessori School, and then Audubon Terrace, where the laterals are involved, I believe that it's very important to know where that cumene has come from. Thank you. Not cumene, styrene, pardon me.
Okay.
Okay.
Back to the questions in the chat. Okay. Another question from T says, I would also like to know what DC Water is going to do with respect to the contractors violating DC's no idle law. Triangle Construction is a repeat offender and often leaves their dump trucks idling for over 20 minutes with no driver in attendance, even on days when we have had air quality alerts because of the fires. You state that you are concerned about air quality, but the lack of contract enforcement by DC Water on this ongoing issue make the residents question whether DC Water is actually serious about the commitment to the health and welfare of the project's neighbors.
I take it, Rachel. We do have inspector on site that monitors. We thought we are doing okay, but we gonna reinforce to our inspector to monitor the idling issue. We haven't got any complaint for a long time, so I'm kind of surprised that this is coming up, but we will look into it. Thank you.
All right. AT says, I live in apartments that face Site 1. How long should we expect the sewage bypass to be set up at Site 1? 3 months, 6 months, or a year? What should we expect for as far as noise or smell? +1 to the island concern.
Eric, I'm sorry to do to you.
You're fine, Peter.
I'm sorry to do this to you. Do you know how long? I mean, for the setup, we're doing short 6 to 9.
Yeah, I am not familiar enough with the specifics of the project to give a direct answer there, and I apologize for that. The one part of this question I can deal with there was a question about noise. Whoever has the slide deck, if you would care to slide back up, there's a picture of a green pump in the bottom right-hand corner. I remember seeing that. Here you go. So this is an example of the 6-inch pumps that are being used for the bypass. There are 2 main types of pumps that are used in our industry. One is called open and the other is called sound attenuated. The big green box that you see around these pumps is sound attenuation, meaning that that pump can run full blast 24/7 and we could stand right next to it and have a conversation at normal conversational levels. That's a beautiful thing. So for the sound aspect, the pumps should not be more than a mild hum in the background. As for the timing, I can find out some answers and report back to this crowd.
just to follow up with Eric, the pump will only be in operation when we're doing the CIPP operation from 7 to 7, and the pump will be off after 7.
That's a great point to make, Peter. Thank you.
Okay, next question is from T, and it says, where were your monitors 3 weeks ago? And then there's a follow-up that says, that's incorrect. 5 complaints have been filed with DOEE on Triangle in the past 2 months, I guess in regards to the idling.
Rachel, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question again?
Well, I guess it's only really one question. So it says,
Okay.
where were your monitors 3 weeks ago?
Where were monitors? I'm assuming they're talking about the University of Texas monitoring crew.
No, folks monitoring the idling of the
Idling.
trucks.
Oh, the inspector. The inspector is supposed to be on site. He's supposed to be on site from 7 to 7. So he usually aware of everything that goes on. This is water inspector. We do have an inspector there on the job site. So we make note of this and let him know.
Okay, and he's just letting you know there were 5 complaints filed in the past 2 months for Triangle. Okay, for the next one, it says, it's from AT. It says sound attenuation will occur for those 3 boxes on the map. It's a question.
I'll chime in. I believe the blue boxes are referring to the different bypass locations, and the answer to the question is yes. It would be the same equipment moved for the different bypass locations.
Okay. Van says, DC Water now claims it has disclosed laboratory test results for 5 shots of CIPP. The lab test results for the shot on March 17th and the lab test results for the shot on March 16th are posted on the project website. What are the file names for the lab test results for shot 3, 4, and shot 5?
Everything, they need to go back to our website. Everything is on the website right now. Emmanuel?
Yeah,
please correct me.
everything's been posted to the web. All of our information for the first shots 1 through 5 have been posted to our website, and I'll put the link to that in the chat now.
Thanks, Emma. T writes, heavy equipment truck idling is an ongoing issue for the residents. When is DC Water going to start enforcing its contract terms? Well, he's not paying attention.
Does this subject come up a lot tonight? We will let our inspector know.
Yeah.
We will get to it.
AT writes, thank you. And T was just clarifying who the site monitor was. Okay. Marjorie writes, please explain your process for testing and monitoring, e.g. time lapse between collection and getting to lab.
Did you understand the question?
Read that one again, Raisha.
Please explain your process for testing and monitoring. Example, time lapse between collection and getting to lab.
Yes, please explain who's on site doing the testing and monitoring. When you do the collections, how long does it take before it gets to the lab? I'm assuming it takes about a week or so for the lab results to come back, but we don't get the posting for weeks and sometimes months. Can you run through in a brief way, please just run through the scenario, your process for doing this?
Peter, can we speak to Marsha's question?
Peter, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Sorry. Marjorie, I'm sorry. Akon is the one that helping us with that with the University of Texas. So I will pass that question to our Akon folks, and we get the answer to you.
But the ACOM folks aren't on this call.
They're not.
But you don't have, nobody at DC Water has a sense of that? You have a contract
Well,
with
ACOM. We do have to say, but we don't want to give you, I just want to make sure what we give you, we run it by ACOM before we give it to you. So we will get it to you.
Okay, could you
Hey,
please?
Marjorie, this is
yeah.
This is Will. For those who I haven't met, I'm the director of engineering.
Yep.
I'm sorry for not being on camera. I'm at headquarters and I'm kind of halfway out the door, so I apologize for that. Marjorie, I think what Peter's worried about there is kind of the time durations there. I'm not 100% sure of those either. So we want University of Texas to give us that answer, so we don't give you kind of a wrong perception of a couple days versus a week. But in general, it's basically the University of Texas and the team from University of Texas at Arlington shows up on site before the work starts in the morning. They set up their SUMA canisters, they set up the PIDs, and they set up the GCMS. The GCMS stands for gas chromatography. I can never say these words. Gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and
yep.
They set those all up before the work starts. That the SUMA canisters basically collect air for a certain amount of time. I believe it's on the order of 12 hours, but we'll have University of Texas kind of clarify that time frame. And then the PIDs, those are monitoring at a certain amount of time intervals throughout the installation process, and the same with the GCMS. And then at the end of the day, they compile all their notes and everything. What the SUMA canister has to be shipped off to a lab. The PID data,
right.
I believe that's all read live.
Right.
And I believe that the GCMS is read live as well. I don't know how long it takes to get it shipped to the lab, how long it takes to get there, how long it takes to run the test. But that data is from the SUMA canister, or not the data. The SUMA canister itself is mailed to the lab where they do the test and get the results back to us. On all of the durations of those things, though, Peter will have to find that and get that back to you.
Well, what you're saying is very helpful, even just knowing that they're there every day and that's what they're doing. And then who gets the readouts? Are those sent to DOEE? Who sees them?
DOE.
So it starts with University of Texas. They write up the report, and they're Peter, I don't remember if we're sending all the reports to DOEE or if we're sending only those that have above the limits. But I'm pretty sure we're required to send only the ones that have limits, but we are sending all the data.
We're sending everything to them, Will.
Yeah. So DOEE sees everything, all the data we get.
Okay. Next question is when is the projected project completion date? As in, when can the residents of Audubon Terrace expect to no longer be impacted by this project?
Yeah, for now, with the project, we open to wrap it up by the end of the year, but we need to plant some vegetation, and we need to replant some trees. So and those planting, we can only do them during fall or spring. So for this project right now, we're looking after spring next year. So for the vegetation to at least take root, to make sure that they'll be able to survive. So we're looking at the end of spring next year.
Okay. Van N writes, these are the names of the lab test reports on the project website. Please identify which one is for shot 3, which one is for shot 4, and which one is for shot 5. You're gonna have to look in the chat. So it says GD 23068, GD 23067, GD 23066, and then Cure Soapstone Air Monitoring, and then which is on 3/16, and then the 3/14 date. So they just need to know those last three, what dates they are.
Oh, they probably looking, they're looking at, I think they're looking at the lab report. The PID report comes with a short number. But let me get with Emmanuel. I thought we actually put the short numbers on them. Maybe when it was uploaded on the website, maybe something happened. But we will fix it. The way we got it from University of Texas is by short numbers. So we make sure we correct it on the website.
Okay. And the last question that was in the chat was basically the same question, just wants to know. Oh, there's another one. All right, Ben L, with regard to the prediction that the project will be finished by spring 2024, does that mean that the pedestrian access to the Soapstone Valley will not be possible until 2024? Vice the projected 10/2023 on the sign.
Yes. Permit with NPS, they don't want us to open the park until all the vegetation take root. So we're just going by National Park Service direction.
Okay. Then still asking about the shots, and he wants to know what are the dates of the shots. There were no shot numbers on the files posted on the project website. I think we're gonna fix it, right, Peter?
Yeah, we're gonna fix it.
Okay. Any hands up? I'm not seeing. Okay. Emmanuel, that's all I see for questions.
Okay. Are there any other questions anyone has? I think we've gone through everything in the chat. Okay. Any other thoughts or comments or anything? We blocked this time to 8:30. If not, we'll give you back 40 minutes, 42 minutes of your time this evening. All right. Any sort of closing comments or feedback that you have, Commissioner Bayer?
Yeah, I would just like to thank you for your time this evening. I know that you guys have extended your day there at the office. I would just point out to the community that we've had regular discussions during the ANC meeting, so I invite people to look at the ANC 3F website for the date of the next one in September. And I do want to let the community know that DC Water has promised to continue to send out updates on a timely basis, and those updates will include revised schedules as they get additional information. And I will reiterate and echo what you said, Emmanuel, that the schedules tend to be works in progress, that we've had all sorts of different types of things happening that have altered these schedules, but you're trying to be as diligent as possible in keeping the community informed. I will also say that this is just the first of several of these evening Zoom calls. There will be another one, I'm not sure when, for principally the Park Van Ness and Park Connecticut residents who will be seeing CIPP during the 9th and 10th shots, and we will be holding individual in-person meetings with the people, the residents on Audubon Terrace and also Lenore Lane before those two areas see the shots for the laterals that are coming off of the main sewer line. I put my address in the website on the chat line. It's 3FO3@anc.dc.gov. If anyone has any questions for me, any comments, you're welcome to send me a note. Emmanuel, I'll turn it back over to you, and thank you again for your time this evening.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. If there are any questions beyond this meeting, you can certainly feel free to send an email to myself or to our Soapstone email. Definitely. We will certainly get back to you, as Commissioner Bear mentioned, as Jarrell mentioned as well. Our meetings don't end tonight. We'll be doing we've been doing lots of outreach that will continue, including, in your neighborhood this coming Saturday. So Jarrell, Raisha, and myself, and possibly Peter, will be at the farmers market. So feel free to stop through. If you have any questions, we can address them there also in person. We love to interact with our customers in person. We have lots of goodies and tchotchkes on the table as well to hand out. And we'll be there from 8 until 12:30 on Saturday. So feel free to, see us there. And again, feel free to reach out with any questions that you may have beyond this meeting by emailing us. We do thank you for your time tonight. And with that said, we will say goodnight. And I will follow up this meeting, as promised, with the email presentation slide deck and putting the recording on the website tomorrow. All right. Thank you all and have a good night.